Okay, so this is take 2 of the video because I fouled, well, technically take 3 because I fouled up the last 2 times. Anyway, this is my remediation video. I'm remediating a paper I wrote about 3 months ago on Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns, discussing page design, mainly focusing on gutters and bleeds. Episode 1. So, you want to make a comic. Yeah, you got yourself great characters, a good art style, and a deep, thrilling plot. And you write it all down and you're thinking, yes, this is what I want to do. This is my masterpiece, my magnum opus. And you give it to somebody else and they're like, dude, I mean, I see where you're going with this, but no, something's wrong. And so you say to yourself, well, something's missing here, because I know I've got most of the elements I need, but it's just not crossed that border between dribble and comic yet. So it just doesn't have any pop. There's no pizzazz here. It's pretty dull, to be honest. I mean, you've got your plot, but it's a basic comic, but you're not holding up to, say, Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns here. Now, plenty of arguments can be made to why DKR has had such a lasting impact, and a lot of those arguments could apply to your comic. Just flipping through this book, however, reveals something big. Miller's page design. He's not following some formulaic layout of panels and page design. There's no X number of panels per page, all the same size and page. No. He manipulates the size, number, and shape of each and every panel in this book. And then he plays with the white space between them as well. And he's got full page spreads and splashes. He's got gutters that, these gutters and white spaces that just shape the comic as much as the panels themselves. And today we're going to focus on those gutters. And if you haven't caught it yet, gutters is lingo for that this comic book lingo for that white space that's in between the panels. So let's get into it. Now, it could be argued that not all comics artists use gutters in their comics. Now, some simply use varying lines of varying thickness, usually blacks as their lines, but they use those to separate their panels. If you think about it, though, those are gutters. They're just empty space that separates two panels, and that is a gutter. Now, gutters go hand in hand with panel shape, as it's what shapes the panel. I mean, you can't really shape a panel without gutters of some sort, unless, you know, you're doing some sort of experimental work. So, you gotta ask yourself, how are you gonna shape your panels? Now, obviously, gutters don't really play into bleeds, but that's next episode. The gutters and panel shapes can be used to display things just as much as the content of the panel itself. Let's take an example of a news report. Say you want to show some breaking news on the TV. Now you want to show this, and you could show it in just a regular panel, put a little logo in the bottom corner saying, "Hey, this is the TV news, blah blah blah." That seems kind of fake, though, doesn't it? Now you could show a panel that actually has a TV screen, maybe even show the people watching it too, but that's not really getting the point across that you want to make. That's not focusing on the news itself. You're focusing on the people and the way they react to it. Now, you could show it from the newsroom itself, but again, you're not really getting the impact of it. This is being televised to hundreds and millions of people. Now, you're probably going to asking me, now Dave, what the heck am I going to do to make this look right? Well, let's take a look at what Miller does. He uses news reports all throughout The Dark Knight Returns, and when he does, he uses this particular technique right here. As you can see, I'll put my head around here, he's shaping the panel using the gutters to emulate a TV screen. And he's putting his text outside of the panels. Now, obviously, this simulates looking at the screen itself without, seeing the TV, which will distract your readers. And putting the text outside the panels, that's just icing on the cake, because what you've got there is a simulation of a teleprompter, or maybe even the closed captioning on a TV. So it really helps in suspension of disbelief and reader immersion, because it's like you're looking at a TV. It's like you're actually looking at the screen of the TV itself. You're not looking at some simulacrum or what have you of a TV that somebody's drawn on a page. It's a really, really good way of showing televised news in print. So you should think about trying that one. Now, let's talk about the color of a gutter. As you saw in Miller's work there, his gutters are white. Now, that's not saying all gutters have to be white. It's just that's the industry standard because you don't have to pay for the ink for all the other pages. That's not to say you can't use other gutter colors. I read comics with black, green, blue, red, all kinds of different colors of gutters. But most of them standardize. You've got one gutter color that stays constant throughout the entire book. Sometimes, though, you should think about changing that color. Changing the color can really have an impact on reader immersion, just as the shape and the manipulation of the gutter. Because you reflect on what's in the panels using the color, because there's some very deep, emotional, almost instinctual responses to certain colors. For example, Miller changes his gutters from white to black twice in The Dark Knight Returns. The first time occurs when we discuss Batman's famous villain, the Joker. It's right after his poison gas attack on a TV station, and he's fled the scene and he's visiting an aged Selina Kyle, which most of you probably know a little better as Catwoman. Now, Catwoman is not doing her normal gallivanting and thieving here. In fact, she's running a whorehouse, but that's not what we're discussing here. As you can see, Miller's changed the color of the gutter to black. Now that black gutter reflects the evil that's in Joker's soul. And I mean, that's a pretty obvious, simple color relation there. Black equals evil, dark souls, so on and so forth, yada yada. But there's something else here. You see, it's also reflecting how Miss Kyle has dropped, if not from dignity, then at least from grace. So you've got this black showing some very deep, very basic human feelings. Now, I said there were two places Miller used the black gutters. The second time is a much longer run than that single page I showed you before. For 17 whole pages, which was about half of the issue that originally appeared in, Miller did a run on black gutters. This run occurred right after a nuclear warhead had gone off somewhere in the world, but it was a specialized nuke that knocked out the power grid in the United States. So obviously there was a blackout in Gotham City. Now, as you can see just from these panels, he used the black background once more, and that reflects several things. First, obviously, it's showing the dark that's going on in Gotham. There's absolutely no light here. The absolute only light you're seeing is fire. There's another dark nature that's happening here, and that's, as you can see here, riots. Riots are breaking out all over the city. Somebody has set fire to this building. People are panicking in the streets, and I mean, that's just a dark time for any city. Now, I'll admit I've been emphasizing the word dark for a reason here. Let's go back to the title. The Dark Knight Returns. And once again, the dark nature of Batman returns in this dark gutter. As we see our Dark Knight, I promise that's the last one, emerge from the, okay, I lied, the dark of the city. So, I mean, it's really reflecting on the fact that Batman's always striking from the shadows and all that jazz. But it does still have an impact, despite how cheesy it may seem. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I've got on gutters. So, to sum up this episode, manipulating gutters can really bring an otherwise still comic to life. Gutters can really help with immersing your readers in your comic. It really helps the suspension of disbelief. But really, when you think about that, it's a paradox, because the very presence of a gutter reinforces the status of your comic as, well, a comic. But that's still it doing its job, because it's going to make your thing real to these people. So, thanks for watching. Write in any questions or comments you might have, and tune in next time. We'll be discussing those notorious page stealers, spreads and bleeds.